So I just finished installing the HN Motion version 2 motion system on my sim rig, and wow, is this thing insane. Like, I knew motion was going to be good, but this has exceeded my expectations by a lot. This is a 4-post 3 DOF system that costs 5,250 Australian dollars, which makes it one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest, motion systems in the world. Because if you live overseas, like in Europe or America, your currency is so much better than the Australian one, you're pretty much getting 40% off from that price. And even though this is one of the cheapest, this is definitely not a cheap feeling system. If anything, it feels extremely premium, and it's got 150 millimeters of stroke, which in a lot of cases is double of what the competition is offering. And they cost way more than this. For example, the D-Box and the Cubic systems in Australia cost around $13,000. And they only provide around 60 millimeters of actuator stroke. Now, some people might say 60 millimeters is all you need and less is better. I don't think that's true at all, because if you like rally games, the more is better. So 150 millimeters actually feels like a real car, because you're getting thrown around everywhere, and I bet in real life it's the same story. Honestly, this thing is worth every single dollar, and you'll see that I have a very entry-level Fanatec wheel and pedals here. And this is how I wanted to start this series, because I wanted to see if motion is what people should be getting first. It's usually the last thing people get. People usually get very expensive steering wheels, very expensive pedals, gearboxes, shifters, and things like that. I think it's the reverse here. And after using it for 2 weeks now, I think my theory is correct. People should be buying a motion system like this first before you go spending a ton of money on expensive steering wheels, because you'll get way more feel and realism out of a motion system. To me, without motion, I always feel like there's a huge disconnect with sim racing. Okay, so let's get into the details of this thing. So what comes in the box when you get it? You get 4 servo motors, and these are the white ones, which are 750 watts, and these are the quiet ones, and they really are pretty quiet. And they're capable of 3,000 RPM and 2.39 Newton meters of torque. Then you get 4 of these beefy actuators that are capable of doing 150 millimeters of travel distance. Each actuator has 275 kilograms of push force, with a total maximum system weight of 350 kilograms, which is including everything that's on your rig and yourself. So this can definitely accommodate a wide range of people. In the box, you also get all the data and power cables, a new design cabinet where you put your servo motors in, and this one's much smaller compared to the previous one, and it's also very easy to build. And finally, there is a Fanos 4U controller, which is an additional $250 when you're purchasing the motion system. This is required for the motion system to communicate with your actual PC. So what's the setup process like? Well, it was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. When I looked at the instructions, they were very simple. There was only like 1 page, and I was like, it can't be this simple. But it actually was. You pretty much didn't even need instructions. It was very straightforward. It was just a bunch of bolts. It will take you a good few hours to set it all up, but definitely underneath 1 day, which is much quicker than setting up something like an actual frame for a sim rig. So I got this motion system in December, and since then, all of these servo motors are pre-configured from the factory. So you don't have to do anything with them apart from wire them up, which will save you a lot of time, because previously you would have to dial in all the setting numbers, which will take a while. Every single wire that you need to screw into the servo motor is labeled, so it really can't get any easier than that. You're not going to get it wrong. As I mentioned before about the cabinet, if you purchase yours, I think from December and onwards, it's a new style cabinet, so it's easier to build compared to before. It's also smaller, so it takes up less space. And I had no problems with it. It was very easy. It wasn't anything complicated at all, so pretty happy with that. And it doesn't take up much room. I've got mine underneath my PC, and it fits perfectly there. Now, if you have a track racer sim racing frame like the TR80, TR120, and TR160, it bolts straight onto the actual frame itself. You don't need any additional items. But if you have a next level racing FGT Elite like the one I have here, where these what's called seat movers stick out and they're kind of in the way, you will need a additional piece of aluminum extrusion which goes underneath the actual rig, and it essentially just shifts the actuators a little bit further away from the rig so that it actually clears all of this stuff that's sticking out. Now, that was pretty easy to set up. You do have to get that additionally yourself, but it's a piece of cake, and I'll have it in the video shown so you can see how it looks here. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure it will fit most standard aluminum extrusion frames without any additional items like what I have to do here. And that's pretty much it for the physical setup of this system. You then connect the Fanos controller via USB to your PC. You then choose your choice of software, and I'm using SimHub for this, and it's a great app, and it's the setup process could not have been easier. It pretty much auto detects. You just choose, motion system. Within 5 minutes, you're set up. It just asks you like which post is in which location, how many millimeters is a stroke, and things like that. It's very basic, and everything sets up, and it's all pretty much pre-configured. You essentially don't have to do anything in there. You can just launch a game. It was that easy. I'm actually quite surprised how easy that was. I was very happy about that. Now, SimHub cost me about $10 for the actual app itself, and then it cost me additionally around 60 Australian dollars to get the motion system software for SimHub. And this one is essential so you can actually use this properly. Now, if you use the demo, which is for free for a certain amount of hours, it will cut out the motion system every 15 minutes. So just keep that in mind. There is nothing wrong with the motion system. I thought there was something wrong with it. It kept on turning off. But then I just went and bought the actual license, and it never happened again because there's no cutout, so you can just use it properly. So I honestly recommend just don't even use a demo, just purchase the license straight away. It's only like 60 Australian dollars, and then you don't have to worry about it. So apart from that, I haven't had a single issue with this at all in the 2 weeks that I've had it, and I've driven a lot on it. Honestly, it's been fantastic. I'm super happy with this. So this is my first motion system that I've ever been in, and there is actually a lot that has surprised me about this one that I didn't even think about before. First of all, the power and how much weight it can handle. So even when you put somebody heavy on here, like I had my brother-in-law here on the other day, and he was around 130 kilos, it just does not, it doesn't slow down at all. Like it has no issues at all moving around at max speed when you put somebody heavy on this. The other thing that surprised me about this is how fast it actually moves. I can't actually believe how fast these screw type motion systems move. Like they change in like an instant, in an absolute instant. And especially since this is like one of the cheapest motion systems out, I thought it was maybe going to be slow, maybe there's going to be lag or something, but there hasn't been a single thing that I've noticed. There is like no lag at all. It all feels exactly how a real car feels. And the speed that it changes directions in when it hits a bump, it is absolutely instant. Now I know like the cubic system is fast on paper, and look, I haven't tried it myself, but it's not like I've felt anything about this one that feels slow. It all feels exactly how a real car feels, or at least how my S2000 feels when I drive an S2000 in the real game. It is extremely responsive. I don't actually wish for more speed. It all feels perfectly fine. Now, obviously we all know the motion system is great for when you're braking, accelerating, when you're turning, or when you're climbing a hill or descending, because it's got a lot of 150 millimeters of heave. And that was great and I loved it, but that didn't really surprise me. What did surprise me is the haptics that this can actually produce. For example, the ABS brakes feedback. It is absolutely amazing. The whole rig vibrates. It really does feel like the real thing. Another thing is the rumble strips. Like you can completely feel the rumble strips underneath you. It doesn't go through your, you can feel it in your steering wheel as well if you have a direct drive steering wheel, but the whole rig shakes, and it's different to the ABS, what's called rumble as well. And in SimHub you can actually adjust how it vibrates, at what frequency, and so on. You can also do engine vibration, which I couldn't believe, because I just couldn't believe that a screw type system could vibrate at the speed that you actually need to create engine vibration. But it 100% works, which is so cool. And of course, gear changes. When you change gears, you get a massive thump. And of course, all of these settings can be adjusted in SimHub. You can dial it down, dial it up. It's all really adjustable. There's so much. Personally, I haven't really adjusted anything. I mean, I can see all the settings, but it all feels great the way it is already. So you don't have to really do anything to make it feel good. But if you want to tinker with it, you want it to be more your way, you definitely can. The other thing I didn't really expect, right? This was really cool. So since a lot of these tracks are now laser scanned, for example, like in Assetto Corsa Evo, you can feel every little bump, every dip, like just the tiniest differences in the way the surface is on the road. And without a motion system, you do not feel this. Like, I mean, I've had a few different direct drive wheels, some good ones, some more basic ones like this. You do not really feel that, but in a motion system, you can completely feel it like a real car. And that was very cool to feel, because that does change the way you drive, because it can throw you off when you go over a massive bump. You don't really notice that without a motion system. So this is where it gets interesting. This is a $5,000 system, and people are spending a lot of money on pedal haptics, butt kickers to create engine vibrations, very expensive direct drive wheels that have better feedback so that you can actually feel more of the road. And by the time you calculate all of that in, you're so close to just getting this actual motion system. And this will just provide so much more in the realism of actually feeling like you're driving a real car. So with all of these haptics, you can somewhat disregard all those other items and not even buy them. Like I said, I've got a very basic system here with a Fanatec DD Pro Gran Turismo wheel and the most basic pedals, which are not even load cell pedals. And I'm having the time of my life, and I somewhat don't even feel like I need better pedals or a better steering wheel, because this is providing so much detail and data that it kind of overtakes everything that this is doing. But look, I'm not saying I'm not going to upgrade my steering wheel and pedals. I actually will be doing that just for this whole series, so we can see how far this all goes. But I don't feel like I need it, because this is providing a lot of detail and a lot of fun. Will this make you a better driver in real life? 100%, because it actually feels somewhat very close to a real car. And here's another massive advantage of having a motion system. It's that you can actually get a seat belt. You can get a whole 4-point harness, strap it on, and then strap it onto the bottom of the actual feet underneath the motion system. And this is essentially a seatbelt tensioner system, because when the motion system tilts forward at 150 millimeters, even at 100 mil or less, this is completely squeezing you as if you have an actual like a $2,000 cubic motion system. Now, it might not be at the force that the cubic system does it. I think that does it at like 45 kilograms. But I'll tell you what, if you do this tied up, it does feel very like immersive when it comes to braking. Even when I'm cornering, I can feel it on either belt, depending on how you've strapped it up at the back. And this only cost me like $100 for these belts from AliExpress. And I added these tiny little cups to the bottom. I initially had bungee straps at the bottom. I'm no longer using bungee straps, because once you have the bungee straps, you lose a lot of the feeling, and I didn't need it. So I've just directly connected it. And for $100 from AliExpress, you've got yourself a belt tensioning system that you would normally have to pay like $2 grand for. And you can only do this if you have a motion system. So if you add up all these things, a belt tensioner system, I'm just reading my notes so I don't forget what I'm going to talk about. So you've got the belt tensioner system, ABS feedback on the pedals, engine vibration. You need a butt kicker for that, and like things like gear changing sensations. You can't even get that. I mean, you can feel it on a steering wheel sometimes. But once you add up all these things cost a lot of money. Honestly, this is what people should be buying first. Before you go spending all this money on all this other little peripherals, get the motion system. You get so much more. This is the feeling of this. When I turn off the motion system now, it feels so weird driving without a motion system. It feels so disconnected. This just feels right. This actually feels like you're driving a real car. And the fact that you can do the whole seatbelt thing is absolutely amazing. I love this. Absolutely love it. It's a whole nother immersive feeling when you're braking and it's completely squeezing you into the seat. So what are the negatives? Honestly, I'm struggling to find anything apart from the noise of it not being absolutely silent, right? So the servo motors are actually very quiet. They make a very small noise. You can barely hear them. It kind of just sounds like a PC with a fan on. Now these things obviously do make some noise because it is a screw-based system. So when it moves, it makes noise. But it doesn't bother me. If you have speakers and you're actually sim racing with speakers on and you've got to turn up to the level of where you actually feel like you're in a car, you pretty much can't even hear this. If you got headphones on and if you're racing at 4 a.m. and people are sleeping in the room next to you, yeah, they will probably hear it. But I'm going to put it as a negative because let's just have one negative in this video. But to me, it doesn't even bother me at all because I'm usually sim racing during the day and I've got the speakers on and I can't even hear it over the speakers. So yeah, look, could be quieter, but it's definitely not a thing that would push me away from buying a motion system. Like what you get out of this this is amazing. This really takes it to the next level. And I know I sound like I'm bloody well upselling this to the max, but it's just true. I really think people should be spending money, like less money on everything else, and just get the motion system. Get a more basic frame, whatever you can afford. Get a most entry level steering wheel and pedals. Get a single monitor before you do triple screens. Get the motion system first. You'll have more fun with this to start with, and then go upgrading everything else. So the customer service from H & Motion is also 10 out of 10. Hugo, which is the guy that runs it, he replies super quick. You got any questions, he's literally like, he'll reply back very, very quickly, so you don't have to worry about anything there. I've had a great experience with them. They're actually from my city, Melbourne, here in Australia, so that was also a bonus for me. But like I said, it doesn't matter where you are, and if you live overseas, where you have a good currency like, you know, the euro, the US dollar, this is so much cheaper for you. It's like 40% off or something like that based on the currency exchange, because Australian currency is just no good for us. But it's great for you guys if you're overseas. So you're gonna get a huge discount compared to us. And this just becomes such a cheap system for you. Now, I did ask Hugo to give me an affiliate discount code, so if you guys do decide to purchase it and you use my link below, I'll be getting a tiny little commission from it. So I would really appreciate that if you do. Otherwise, if you don't, it doesn't matter. Just go to the website, check it out for yourself, and purchase it if you don't want to do that. That's also fine by me. So yeah, the link will be in the description below with the discount code. I don't know what else to say, guys. I honestly cannot recommend this anymore. This has changed the way I feel about sim racing. A few years ago, I had another sim rig with a more powerful wheelbase, load cell brake pedals, and the whole lot, and I just never could feel, there was always just such a disconnect, and I just didn't feel like playing it. It didn't feel like the real thing. I've got an S2000 as my weekend car, and that thing's amazing to drive, and then whenever I race without like motion, it didn't feel right. But this actually feels super fun, super fun. I actually feel like I'm driving a real car. Yeah, it's 10 out of 10. If you're thinking if you're thinking about getting a motion system, and you're thinking about paying 13 grand for these other ones, like I think you need to get this first. Save some money. It's like 5 grand. You can use the rest of the money on something else, like upgrading the rest of your rig, getting triple screens, doing something else. But for 5 Gs, you cannot go wrong. All right, guys, that's it for this one. In the next episode, I'll be talking about this Samsung 57-inch ultra wide. I've also got a Samsung OLED 49-inch ultra wide. We're going to be comparing them, show you which one is better before I do the triple screens. So yeah, that's going to be fun to compare. All right, guys, until the next one, have a good one.